All right. Thank you for being here. Fariz Manazani. That's close. It's close. I feel like it's close. Life coach, philosopher, writer. How does understanding the purpose of life affect one's happiness?
Yeah, that's a deep question. And I had this question since age 12. And so at that time, usually kids at that age just do the things that kids do at that age, go to school, and they're busy with life and learning and stuff. But I had those kind of questions. What is the meaning of life? How can I understand more about the truth, not the shadow of the truth? So when I asked those questions from my teachers or parents or friends, everybody was looking at me in a way that, why are you asking those questions? Just live your life. But those were in my mind at that age. And so I started my search because I wasn't happy. And when I reflect back, I now understand why I was asking those questions. Because when I was a child, before going to school, I was very playful, and I would go and outside and play, and I was very joyful and playful. Soon as I went to school, something happened. I became a shy boy, so I couldn't communicate much with others. And the reason was that all of a sudden I experienced something that I didn't expect. My mother just sent me to school, separated me from herself. And I went to school. I had to sit down straight, and I had to listen to the teacher. I had to do the homeworks. I would go to the yard and get pushed by other kids. So my perspective was changed from a friendly universe to a hostile universe. So I felt that I have to have my guards up because everybody or any situation can harm me. So I have to protect myself. So I had that protective shield around me that separated me from everybody else. So when I was 12 years old, I was missing that childhood. I was looking for the joy again and again and again. I couldn't find it. So I started my search. And that search took me 12 years. After 12 years, when I was 24 years old, it was around 30 years ago. I still remember completely what happened. I was 24 years old, and I was so frustrated because I had more than 1,000 books in my library, my personal library, because I went through whatever I could find the answer to those questions, all the paths, many different paths I went through, a lot of books. I couldn't get the answer. I was looking for the truth, not the shadow of the truth. So I developed a sense, some people call it bullshit meter or something like that. You feel that you go somewhere and it is not genuine, it is not authentic and stuff. You start practicing something, but you don't get the things that you want. So I had that sense, and I was going from path to path, from book to book. I couldn't get the results. So I said, enough is enough. I have to do something about this situation. I'm frustrated. And because I was even more frustrated than the starting point, when you don't know, you don't know. When you start knowing, there's a Pandora box. You have to just find the answer to all those different things that come up. So uh, I was in that situation, frustrated. And I went to my uncle, and I told my uncle, you have a room in your house in the basement. It has no windows. There's a washroom inside. It's a perfect setting. I just want to occupy that room for a while. He said, for how long? I said, maybe 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or I never come out of that room. And he said, are you crazy? I said, yes, I am a mixture of crazy and frustrated. And he said something funny. He said, I noticed that you are stupid as well. I said, why? He said, because you're going to go inside based on whatever you told me, you want to find the truth. You want to go inside and die from hunger. I said, yeah, he is a smart guy. So I went to the market and bought 5 kilos of raisin. And so I went in, closed the door, turned the light off. I said, I'm going to be sitting in this isolation, facing myself until I find the answer to those questions. And I'm not going to get out until that point. So it was absolute darkness and absolute silence in that room. And I went through different exercises because, you gather a lot of things along the way in the 12 years of research and doing from path to path. I knew a lot of things. So I started practicing those. I couldn't get the results. So at the point, I just gave up. And I was sitting in there in silence. And it might be a type of torture for a lot of people. Because when you do something wrong, they put you in the jail. And when you do something wrong in the jail, they put you in the solitary confinement. So you have to face yourself. All the emotions come up, all the thoughts and everything. And you are not escaping from there because it is right in front of you. So I had those moments. And so in one of those moments, something strange happened to me. What was it? I felt a sense of warmness in my heart. And that sense of warmness started to spread all over my body. My cells started to just burn from inside. I was feeling that heat that was coming from inside. On the outside, it was reflecting as sweating. I was sweating and I was shaking, and all of a sudden, the scenery changed. In the absolute darkness, there was light. So, and something changed that it is hard to describe it with words, but I can give you an example. Imagine that you have an ice cube in your hand. You go by the ocean and you just throw that ice cube into the ocean. And the ice cube is floating on the top of the water. And gradually that ice cube starts to melt. And when the last piece of ice cube disappears, there is no ice cube anymore. It's just water. It is just ocean. It is one with the ocean. So the same thing happened to me. I was melting from inside, burning from inside, and all of a sudden, I felt something strange. It was the expression of all is one and one is all. There was no separation. I knew everything in that moment. I knew the answer to all my questions. And it was an experience that took me out of that room. I came out with a few realizations. So the first one was knowledge is different than wisdom. I was looking for the knowledge on the outside world through the books, through the speeches, through the paths, different resources. But I found out that there is a different thing called wisdom, which is the source of knowledge. All the knowledge is coming from some source, which is a container that contains everything and everyone, which is wisdom. And that wisdom is not far away. It was in my heart, and I was carrying that wisdom. So it is like the story of that African farmer who sold his farm to find the diamond. So he went all over the world. After a few years, he passed away. And the farmer who bought the farm from the first farmer was polishing a piece of stone that he found on the ground. And he was polishing it, and he noticed that it is shiny. So he took it to the jeweler, and they found one of the largest diamond mines in Africa in the same farm that the first farmer sold to go and find the diamond. So that is the diamond mine that we are carrying in our heart, and we are looking for it everywhere on the outside. We are carrying that source of wisdom. So that was the first realization. The second realization was there's a difference between joy and happiness. And what is the difference? Happiness needs circumstances, needs other people to make us happy. And sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad. But joy is different. Joy doesn't have any opposite, and it is always there, and it is the source of happiness. Like the wisdom, which is source of knowledge, joy is the source of happiness, and we are carrying inside. The joy that we are carrying in our heart, we all have access to it. There are some barriers that doesn't let us to get access to it. I just tell you about those later. But the fact is that we are all carrying that source of joy and wisdom. And I realized something else too. I realized that there is a difference between pain and suffering. So pain is part of growing. While we are growing, we go through different stages of pain. Why? Because the old skin doesn't fit anymore, like a snake who is growing, and after a while, the old skin doesn't fit. So the snake has to shed the skin, the old skin. So we have to ruin whatever that is not working for us, leave it behind to be able to build something new. So sometimes we go through that kind of painful moments. It might be physical pain or something else. But just like an athlete who goes to the gym and lifts those weights to build muscles, the athlete knows that if he or she go home without the pain, as if he doesn't have any experience and he doesn't have any growth, and he didn't do anything. So they look for that pain for the growth, to grow those muscles. So the same thing is for us. Sometimes we go through those painful experiences, but suffering is the different story. Suffering comes from something called prefrontal cortex. We analyze everything, we mentalize everything, and we compare everything. And that is the differentiation between us and the other species. We are strong because of our mental capacity, but sometimes that mental capacity bites us in the back. How? We go through an experience, and so we make a mistake. Several years ago, we made a mistake, but we get punished for that mistake several times, million times. Who punishes us? Ourselves. We just think about it and put ourselves in the shame and guilt and so on. So we think and think and think. We punish ourselves million times for one mistake that we made in the past. So that is prefrontal cortex. So that is suffering. We don't need to go through that suffering. Suffering is an illusion, but pain is real. Pain is for growth, but suffering is illusion. So I went through those kind of moments, came out with those realizations, but it wasn't all, because I still had to go through adjusting myself with the new consciousness, which is sometimes hard. You just get some wisdom, and then your life is as before, so you have to change something to match yourself with the new consciousness. So what was that change? So after immigrated to Canada, I started a new job in there, and so at that while I was working, I tried to lift something, and I went to the freeze mode. My back froze. I couldn't move, and I lost that job. I lost that job because I couldn't do physical activities for a while. I had to go to therapy. I went to therapy, and then I was better. I found another job. But the problem was I went through a process of chronic pain for 15 years. So how was it? Almost every week, I had to do something, like going to physiotherapy or massage therapy to get out of that freeze mode again, because my neck and upper back would freeze and I couldn't move my head to the sides. So almost every week. And no specialist could help me because they couldn't see anything in MRI tests. All the MRI tests would come clean. So they couldn't see anything. They said that we cannot point finger to a specific muscle or something. So we don't know what to do. I was taking those medications and stuff, but they were not helping me. So it was frustrating. Again, after 15 years, a friend of mine just came and she said, maybe I can help you with whatever problem that you have. I said, how? You're not a specialist. And I know none of those specialists could help me. She said, you tried everything, but let's try this, see if it works. So she gave me a couple of phone calls. And during those phone calls, she released the trapped emotions that I was carrying. And she explained that sometimes we carry trapped emotions. And on average, every person is carrying more than 200 of those trapped emotions. And what is a trapped emotion? It is an unprocessed emotion. So let's say I get mad at someone. And then I start thinking about it and thinking about it. I'm using my prefrontal cortex, analytical part of my brain. I think about it, I discuss it with others and tell others about it and stuff. So it delays and delays. And my subconscious mind says that it is an unprocessed emotion. So I'm just going to store it somewhere in the body to deal with it later. So that anger becomes trapped in my body, somewhere in my body, let's say in my kidney. And then it affects the operation of that organ. Sometimes we have physical problems because of those trapped emotions that we carry in our body. So what else it does? I'm carrying that emotion of anger. Wherever I go, that vibration is with me. So I'm vulnerable to that emotion. I snap out very fast on things that are just normal things for other people, but I get affected by those. So the other thing that it has is that it lowers my vibration, and my average vibration in my body comes down, because it's like a sandbag in a hot air balloon. So we are carrying those sandbags with us that is bringing us down. So she released a bunch of trapped emotions that was related to the pain that I was carrying, the chronic pain. And what happened was, a week after, I was fine and I was expecting that pain to come back as usual, but it never came back. And she explained during whatever she was doing, she said that I noticed that you have a talent for that too. So you can help others with those kind of things. So it changed my path. I went and under Dr. Bradley Nelson became an emotion code practitioner. I started helping others to remove those blockages that they were carrying. But she did something else as well. During those periods that she was working on me, she released my heart wall. And that was a life-changing experience. So what is heart wall? Heart wall is a protective shield that we create, an energetic shield that we create around our heart. So why do we need that? Because our heart is very sensitive. And there is a phenomenon called broken heart syndrome. So sometimes our heart is broken. Some people think it is just something imaginary, but a scientist in Japan discovered that there are lines on our heart, which is the same, similar lines that we get when we get on our bone. When we have a cracked bone, we go under the x-ray and they found that the hairline on our bone, and they say that you have a crack on your bone. So the same type of lines are on our heart. And it's different for different people. Some people have a lot of them, some people have some people have none. So there are lines on our heart. So those are the broken heart signs. So, and broken heart syndrome is when we have that kind of thing, we feel that we have a heart attack. So I feel a lot of pain in my chest and shortage of breath. I call the hospital. They say that it is heart attack. Rush to the hospital. They send the ambulance and I go to the hospital. They examine my heart and they say that fortunately it wasn't a heart attack. It was broken heart syndrome. So they have that specific term, medical term. So it's broken heart syndrome. So our heart is very sensitive, and our heart is very important as well. Why? Because for every message that goes from brain to heart, 9 messages go from heart to the brain, based on the Heart Math Institute research. That is a nonprofit organization that they study heart. So you can tell me who is the boss in our body. So our heart is very sensitive. We have to protect it. Why? Because sometimes we go through a period of grief. Sometimes we have a breakup. Sometimes there is some reason that we feel a lot of pressure on our heart. So we have to protect our heart. How do we protect it? We can't do much, but our subconscious mind does something for us. It creates a shield around our heart, which is called heart wall. What is the material for that shield? The trapped emotions that we carry in our body, a lot of them, more than 200, 300 of them, all over the place. So our subconscious mind creates a shield around our heart. And that shield is like a shelter. And imagine that the country is under attack by foreign forces. They are shedding bombs. We go to a bomb shelter. And then we lose our communication with the outside world. And now 10 years has passed from the war, and we are still living in that bomb shelter. The same feeling is when we have a heart wall, and more than 93% of the world have the heart wall. So it separates them from other people. It separates them from themselves, because remember, the heart was the source of joy and the source of wisdom, the source of creativity. All that we create is coming from the heart, not by copying. So when we remove the heart wall, everything is different. So we go through a breakthrough. Everything is different. It's like coming out of that self-made prison that we are living in the society. So before that, I couldn't communicate very well, but by others. I would go to parties and with friends, I would say anything. I couldn't speak in front of the people. But after the heart wall was removed, what happened was I became a new person. I could stand in front of 500 people and give a speech with no problem. And I did it a lot. So what happened was that your perspective shifted. You see things that you've never seen before. So that is what I do for people. I remove their heart wall and their life changes. And they come out of that prison. And the other thing was that something called limiting beliefs. You are familiar with the concept of limiting beliefs. It is limiting our perspective. It is like the horse race. They put those blinders around the eyes of the horse. So the horse is like this, going through the track in the race. Why? Because a split second of distraction causes the horse to lose the race. So they want the horse to just focus on whatever that is in front of them. So it's a tunnel view, tunnel vision. So we all have that. Why? Because we are carrying those limiting beliefs. And when we drop those limiting beliefs, it widens our view. And then we see things that we couldn't see before. And we can use our creativity. So I went through a process for to be able to remove limiting beliefs as well. it is not removing, it's neutralizing, because the belief is there, but the energy that is feeding that belief, when it is released, it is not working like before. So I became a certified um, belief removing practitioner as well. So I was helping people with all kind of those things, but still I felt something is missing. I'm helping them to go release the chronic pain, release all the problems that they have, like depression and anxiety and all sorts of things. But you have to widen your perspective as well to be able to grab whatever you receive in full. Why? Because I give you an example. Some people win a lottery, and for a lot of people, when they win the lottery, the lifestyle is changed. So, in the new lifestyle, they go through a couple of years, and then sometimes some of them, and a lot of them actually, do something called self sabotage. They do some stupid things, stupid decisions, that they lose all that wealth that they gained. So they go back to the level that they were before, and even some of them file bankruptcy. They go even lower than the level that they were before. Why is that? Because the new wealth is not matching with their self image. So whatever they have, the belief or whatever image that they have is not matching with the new wealth. So they want to go back to that old friendship that they had with other people, because in the new state they are all worried about, I cannot trust my friends because they come and want to take something off me and stuff. So they don't like that, and they do those things. So when there is a change within us, we have to change our perspective as well to be able to match with the new situation. So that's why I help people in both ways, because I believe that whatever we see on the outside is just a reflection of whatever we have on the inside. And sometimes we are standing in front of the mirror, we don't like our face, we smash the mirror. It doesn't help. So sometimes we go fight with the outside world, but outside world is just a reflection of whatever we have on the inside. It's just a screen. The projector is playing the same movie. So we have to change the movie, and then we see a different reflection. So that is my perspective towards life.
What is then the purpose of life? Our being here right now.
Two things: joy and expansion. So for the joy, we had it before even coming to this life. We had that joy
Okay.
as an eternal being. And then we came to this life for the expansion. And what is expansion? It is the experience that we gain. So we are expanding through the experience by widening our perspective, by going through those kind of moments that we all have in life. But instead of reacting to them, we respond to them with a little bit of pause. Because we know, after we expand ourselves, we know that life is our friend, our best friend. And whatever happens is not to us, it is for us. It's like a gift. Sometimes we receive an ugly gift from a friend, but we know that the wrapping is ugly, but there is some valuable thing inside. So we can open up, go from layer to layer to find that valuable gift which is inside. So the purpose is to get out of those layers. What are those layers? Sometimes I call them personality layers. What is personality layer? Physical, emotional, and mental. Some people think that they are their physical body. They fight with other people over gender, over race, over skin color, over the language, or those kind of things, because they think that they are their physical appearance. They think they are their physical body. But if I'm my physical body, what happens if I cut my hand and put it in front of me? Am I going to be a different person? No, I'm not going to be a different person. I'm still me. So I'm not my physical body. Some people think that they are their emotions, their behaviors. So when somebody behaves badly, we start judging that person. He or she is a bad person. He is behaving like this. But the behaviors are coming from emotions, the trapped emotions that we talked about before. We carry all those trapped emotions along the way. And based on those, we have some behaviors. For example, if I have the trapped emotion of grief, maybe I lose a pet or someone, a dear friend, or someone dear in my family. And that trapped emotion of grief gets stuck in my body. And it's like having that dark shades of glasses inside. So everywhere I look, I have that filter. So I behave like that. I cannot smile, I'm sad or something. And other people start judging me based on those behaviors. But they are carrying some other trap emotions as well. So behavior is not me. I'm not my emotions. I carry the emotion of grief. I carry the emotion of anger, but I'm not sad. I'm not angry. I cannot associate myself with that anger and sadness. That is like a stain on the white shirt that I'm wearing. It can be washed. So a lot of people judge others based on the behavior because they think that we are our emotions. But we can change our mood, but we are still the same person. So I'm not my emotions. So some people judge other people based on their opinions. I have an opinion, you have another opinion, and then we fight with each other. But the thing is that we are not our thoughts. The opinions are coming from the thoughts. So why am I'm not my thoughts? Because if I sit down and don't think about anything, I'm still existing. I don't disappear. If I be my thoughts, if I stop thinking about anything, I would disappear, but I'm still here. So I am a consciousness. Some people call it soul, some people call it consciousness. It doesn't matter what you call it. I am beyond those personality layers, which is appearance, behavior, and opinions. And when I realize that, the big shift happens because now I am in control. As long as you are stuck in those personality layers, you are a slave because you're reacting. But as soon as you get out of those personality layers, you express your authentic self, then you are a master. Then you can change the things. Before that, you don't have any say. It is just automatic reaction. You are on the effect side of the equation. But after you come out of those layers, you go to the cause side of the equation. From victim to victor, from little self to the higher self. That is something that we all can experience in life. For some people, it's harder, for some people, it's easier, but the experiences that we have is helping us to get out of those layers. So the answer is expansion. We are expanding our view.
I like the idea of life, the purpose of life being perspective and experience. I agree with that. And in over just years of living, that's what I've come to think now is you can lessen the effect of the world on you by understanding that there's more to it than we can see and understand here right now. That for some reason, if there is more to life, to existence than this, then we'll understand it one day. But we're here for a reason, whether we chose to be, we're put here, have to go through it, whatever the reason is. But if there isn't anything else and this is it, and it's just a long dreamless sleep and it's just chance that brought us into being, then I don't think there's a problem with imagining that there's more to existence than nothing. So I think that answers for me the question of, do I want to believe in there's more, or do I want to believe there's nothing? So if there's nothing, then it doesn't matter. But if I want to live a more fulfilling life here, then if I think that my reason for being here is collecting experiences and seeing things from my perspective, understanding that maybe if there's an eternal being or there's something else after this, or I'm limited in my understanding here, that it'll be expanded somewhere else. And maybe because it's expanded somewhere else, I couldn't understand the things I can understand here, where I can't understand pain, sorrow, despair, happiness, all those different emotions that a human has, that a living thing, as far as we're concerned, has. That if I were part of a immortal being or an all-powerful being, then how would I know what it feels like to not be powerful? And maybe that's the reason we're here. Whether it is, whether you put the word simulation with it or reality or whatever you call it, that if we're in a construct that is designed by something else, then why are we in this construct? So I like the idea, or I feel comfortable with the idea of it being perspective and experience. And that answers a lot of questions for me as far as when in life people say these terrible things happen to some people and these great things happen to other people. Yeah, that's them collecting that experience from that perspective. And it's just something you have to go through. It doesn't make it any easier when you're going through it, but maybe it does if you can take a step back from it and go, okay, this is a terrible event. I'm collecting what I can from it. And I don't know if you want to be so removed from it that you don't feel the emotion, because again, if we're here for the experience and the perspective, then we're supposed to feel those things. Then is there a danger to knowing too much in whatever it is we're in right now? Like if we knew for sure we were immortal beings and we were a part of something else, we were a part of some other whole, that we were all one, whatever. Like if we knew that for real, it would change how we affect ourselves in this place, or how we play this game of life, if you call it a game, or this experience. So what do you think about that? Is there a interface we can't see beyond on purpose, so we do get the experience here? Or is the purpose of being here like a puzzle, like we're trying to figure this out so we can get out of it? Are we just in this reality until we can figure out how to escape it? Or are we in it to learn something and we chose to be here? What are your thoughts on that?
So it depends on the level of consciousness. So how does it affect? different levels of consciousness have different experiences. Sometimes we are in a level that we come here to go through some experiences, and those experiences are very low level. For example, I come here and kill somebody, and I get killed in this life to learn about the value of life. Sometimes the experience is like this. And then we go through a lot of those kind of experiences in different lives. But sometimes I am at the level that I am graduating from this process of coming and going and coming and going. So my experience is a little bit different. Why? Because I am learning to navigate my way through the path of love instead of path of fear. Because that is, everybody has two paths in front of them. For every walk, every pace that we move forward, we have two paths in front of us. One is the path of love, and the other one is the path of fear. The path of fear is separating us from each other. The path of fear is somehow causing all those dilemma in our life, but the path of life is uniting us together. So if we are in it for that kind of experience, the setting is different than being in this life for the other regular experiences that people have. And we have to accept all those levels of consciousness, because those levels of consciousness are like the different classes in the school. You cannot have just one class for every student. They go to that class and learn something. No, they have different classes. Some people are second grade, some people are 10th grade. You cannot mix them up. And if you put a student who is on the second grade to the 10th grade math class, what happens? They don't understand anything. They get confused. What if you put someone who is on the 10th grade, put it on the second grade math? It is the most frustrating experience ever. I don't know if you've been in one class that is very lower than your level. It's very frustrating. So it is not comfortable. So we come here and get matched with whatever experience that we have to go through in life. And when we understand that we are all experiencing whatever that we need to experience, it changes our perspective towards others. Because sometimes we gain all those wisdom and knowledge, as you said, it might be dangerous. Some people think that if I know all those things, I might go through suffer and those kind of things because I cannot match with others. But the thing is that if we go to that level of understanding, we know that other people are going through that kind of experience for a reason. Like a 10th grade student knows that that second grade student is learning something that 10th grade was learning a few years back, the same thing. So he went through the same process, so he understands. He doesn't mock or he doesn't make fun of that second grade student because he doesn't understand math much. So we understand. We go through the understanding. Some part of going through the path of love is understanding and compassion. When we develop that kind of sense, because we are an eternal being, coming in here in those layers to experience life, then our perspective changes. So as our consciousness starts to expand, we have more tools to deal with those kind of situations.
As an eternal being, I guess that could, you could look at it from a sense of we're an eternal being, and this is some grade level that we're going through right now in this human part of it. Or you could look at it as we're an eternal being and time doesn't mean anything. We are already an eternal being, and now we're back in this. So it keeping with the motif of primary school, you're already graduated, but now you're back into this. So I'm not sure. I mean, I could look at it from both ways, but if you were to visualize stepping back a level, so you have your human self, and then you step back from that to whatever, to whatever, to whatever, until you get to this eternal being. What do you think that looks like? How do you visualize it? What do you feel like intuition wise it is? Is that eternal being just a singular part or a little piece of a larger eternal being? Like, are we all one in the end? Is there something outside of that? How many layers do you go back to get to the eternal being? How many layers are after that?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So we are like a spark. We are like a drop of that ocean. So that drop of the ocean is H2O, and the ocean is H2O as well. So we have the same attributes, but in a smaller scale.
Mm,
And
okay.
so it is like the cells in our body. The cells in our body is very strange. So I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine, who was a physician, and he had a PhD in biology and stuff. He was telling me that he could create a person with just one cell, the similar appearance on everything. So they clone people. So they have those kind of things. He said that in his lab, he was a researcher in one of the hospitals in our area. So he said that in my lab, if I grab just a piece of whatever, hair or skin or whatever from one person, I can create that person because all the information is embedded in that one cell. So the same thing is like us. We are the cells of that whole thing, and we are all the information is embedded with us. So we have different things that we do, like the cells. That every cell has a different role in our body. They are not exactly the same, but they all are part of that whole system that is working together. So we are the same. That higher being or divine being or whatever you call it, that is contained everything, which is like an ocean, wants to express itself through those little things, through those little beings. That is the same. That's just part of the whole part, just one cell in the whole body. So we are here to expand because the whole universe is expanding. It is not just me saying it, even science is talking about it, that the whole universe is expanding. So we are part of that expansion of the whole. And then it's like a wave, it goes up and down, but it is expanding and expanding and expanding. And we are all part of that. And then when we find our role in that expansion, it doesn't matter where you are. Sometimes we come to this school of life, go through ups and downs and stuff, and eventually we graduate. And then when we graduate, we might not need to come to this specific school. In the whole universe, there are a lot of places that we can have a role to just do something, serving. We might not need to come back to this specific school anymore. But some people, very rarely, they come back because they want to serve this way. It's not very common. When you're assigned to do this, you just come back and help others to go through that expansion and joy.
In your time thinking, have you visualized or thought about what is on the other side of the immortal being?
On the other side of the immortal being is, there are layers. So when you come out of those layers that I talked about, the physical, emotional, mental, you are part of the whole. But even within those layers, out of your physical body, there are things that we can experience and explore, like in a dream. A dream state happens in a level which some people call it the astral level or the emotional level. And we can explore those. When I was about 20 years old, I was, as I said, that was the period that I was going through a lot of different paths and experiences and books. So I became interested in astral projection. Astral projection is when you do some exercises and then you get out of your body. And the first experience that I had was that I was laying down on my bed and I started practicing those exercises. And all of a sudden, I was watching myself from the ceiling. My body was there. And I was confused. I said that, who is me? That body that is down there or the one that is watching? So that was my first experience, separating myself from this physical body. And that is astral projection. And I learned how to just pass the wall and go further to another place and visit what is happening. And I was coming back, but I was connected with something that some people call it a silver cord, which is connecting the body to that astral body. So I had those kind of experiences. And during the time after that, my isolation experience, I found that I don't even need to travel with my astral body, because we, as a soul, as a spark of the divine being, we are beyond time and space and matter and energy. We can be everywhere and anytime and stuff. So we have that capacity. We just have to expand our consciousness. And that became a different experience for me, because sometimes you go through different layers. For example, a layer after that emotional level is called the causal layer. Causal layer is the source of all our past lives. And you can go there. People can go there. If they have the capacity and there's time for them to just experience that, they can go there. So when I went there, I could see my past experiences in different lifetimes. And I was in a war, I was killed, and so on. A lot of experiences. You can see those kind of things. It is like a room that has a lot of shelves, and each shelf that kind of movies, a lot of movies stack in that shelf. So you grab one of those movies, to put it into the player, and then you watch that life. So some people call it Akashic record, but there are different names for that. But even that was a transient experience, because you are all, and those are just the experiences that we gain in the different levels of schooling in our life. So when you know that you are an eternal being, what happens? The fear of death is gone. And a lot of things that we are worried about, it doesn't matter anymore. So what we are dealing with in that situation is that how can we choose the path of love over the path of fear? Because we still have to make that choice in every moment. Because we are still stuck in this body, the different levels of the body, physical, emotional, and mental. So it doesn't act automatically. Automatic reaction is for our subconscious mind. So we have to choose every moment to be the love, to send the love. And
I do find it difficult to hold that in mind all the time, to think of us being a part of a bigger thing, like that we're just drops in an ocean, and to understand we're all part of the same ocean, that we're all one. And if you can hold that in your mind in your day to day, you definitely have a different perspective and a different way you treat people. But it is difficult through this interface of humanity to be able to keep that in mind all the time, because you're just confronted with the here and now. I don't know. I don't
exactly,
know if I would be frustrated with someone that was able to keep it outside, to keep that thought in their mind all the time, or if you can see the kinship enough in them that they're just another piece going through whatever it is we're going through, and you can see that similarity in that. And maybe that's where you get, the namaste and all that. I bow to the divine in you. And maybe that's those little reminders. But then when you're out driving and somebody cuts you off, it's hard to be like, oh, that's me cutting me off. No, it's that you get into the human side of things. In your opinion, experience, thoughts, whatever, do you think that the purpose of being human is to experience humanity, or to try to find a way to transcend it?
okay, so it is like a fish which is in the water. And you ask that fish, what is water? It doesn't know. You take that fish out of the water, and then the fish knows what water is. So in order to gain a wisdom, the best thing is the law of polarity. We have to start from the opposite side of it. If I am always in the light, I don't know what light is. But I have to go through the darkness. Then I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I go and go and go. Finally, I find the light, and I appreciate it. So that is us experiencing in here, going through different experiences, and starting from the opposite side of those experiences. And it might not be easy, but when you know that everything happens for a reason, and is part of the growth, part of the expansion, then our acceptance develops. We can develop an acceptance. I give you an example. I was watching the news a couple of years back. There was a wildfire in one of the Canada's provinces. It was in Alberta. So there was a small town that was burnt out. The whole houses were burnt out. So they would gather people in the tents. So the reporter goes to the first tent and asks them how they are doing, and they were crying. They said that we were living in this house for 40 years, generations after generations, and we had a lot of memories, and we lost everything. We don't have anything, and we lost everything. So they were very sad. And the reporter uh, had some sympathy towards them because they lost everything. So that reporter goes to the other tent, which is beside the first tent, and he notices that they are not crying. So he says that, how was your experience? They said that we lived in that house for 40 years, generation after generation, and we had a lot of memories, and we lost everything, but we are happy. And the reporter says, why? They say that because we are still alive and we have each other. We're not injured. We are not burnt. We still have each other. So we are happy. That is the best thing ever. Nobody's injured. So the same scenario, a different perspective, creates the different outcome.
Do you think that our immortal self is just growing and that's why we're here because we're learning, or that we're already a complete thing in the immortal self? And this is either this being in the human body, the human experience, is because of it's a distraction or entertainment or a rite of passage, a punishment, or education. What do you think? What would our immortal self answer that question as? Why go through this thing of humanity?
There is something called plus factor. Plus factor says there is always another level. We are not at the end. And the end means death. So we are always expanding. It doesn't matter on which level me or you or anybody else is, there is always the next step. And we are all expanding. And we are all part of that growth. We are all part of that expansion. And it is joyful when you find how to dance to the rhythm of life. Then you start enjoying ups and downs of life. Why? Because you see that as a roller coaster that you can have fun with. The roller coaster goes up and down in a theme park, and the kids go on the ride and enjoy that ride. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. It doesn't matter, they enjoy the ride. So when you see yourself as part of that expansion, then you enjoy the ride. Sometimes you're going down on life, sometimes you are going up. But you learned how to ride the wave. If we don't know how to ride a wave, we just stand in front of the wave comes and smash us like a tsunami, and then we're destroyed. But if we learn how to ride the wave, the biggest wave that is coming, we are so excited, we go and ride it. So that is the difference. But the thing is that we are all in the process to learn how to dance to the rhythm of life. And we don't come as someone who is already knows everything. We are learning and learning and learning. How do we learn? If I study swimming for 5 years, can I swim? No, I have to go to the water to be able to learn to swim. It comes from experience. It's not just the knowledge. When somebody graduates from university, like a doctor or engineer, they don't know much. they know, they have the knowledge, but they don't have the experience. So that knowledge and experience amalgamate with each other and creates the wisdom. Then we can create something that is above and beyond whatever that is created before, because you learn how to be in the zone. When you're dancing to the rhythm of life, you learn how to be in the zone. I had that experience that was very interesting. So I went skiing a couple of years ago, and as I was coming down the hill, it was a steep hill, but I didn't have any problem with that. After 40 years of skiing, more than 40 years, I didn't have any problem. So I came down the hill, and I was on almost a flat surface at the end of the run. I was moving slow, nobody was around me, and all of a sudden, I was wiped out flat on the ground with no reason, as if there was a lightning just hit me, put me in the ground. So I tried to get up, I couldn't, because my left arm was not working somehow. So I managed to go down to the hospital, and they examined, and they said, the doctor said that you broke your scapula, which is a big bone in your left shoulder. And that bone is covered with muscles. After the MRI, they said that you broke your scapula. And the doctor said that I've only seen this kind of fracture in car accidents. The impact should be so high to be able to fracture this big, thick bone. How did you manage to break it? I said, skiing. He said, no way. And I said, I was moving slow. He said that you're pulling my leg. But that was what happened. So, and I said that it is not a normal thing. It means that there is something in it for me. Life is giving me a gift wrapped in an ugly paper. That was my perspective. Because I came to that kind of a state of consciousness that they said that life is my best friend, it's not my enemy. If something happens to me, it's for me, it's not to me. So I said that I cannot do much with my left arm not working, but still I can use my right hand. So I started writing the things that I had in mind for a long time. So something strange happened. When the doctor was releasing me from the hospital, he said that we cannot do surgery, we cannot do nothing. You're going to be dealing with this for 6 months, and it's very painful because with a slight change in your body position, you're going to cry from pain because that fracture is very bad. And so he gave me the strongest painkillers. And he said that you have to take them regularly, otherwise you're going to be smashed with pain. So I took those painkillers, and I noticed that when I'm writing, I'm not taking those painkillers. I was in the basement writing for 12 hours, 14 hours, and I would forget about the pain. I would forget about hunger, about tiredness or something. My wife would come and pull me to the bed. And then the next day. So it was very strange experience. And I noticed that that is the definition of being in the zone, being in the flow state. When you are in the flow state, you are beyond time and space. You don't know where you are. You don't know what time it is. So it is beyond time and space. And I was in that zone. So I started producing a lot of writing. And I sent it to the publisher after a couple of weeks. This publisher said that's too much. We cannot publish all these in one book. So they made me to go through cutting and cutting and cutting. The process of editing took much longer than the process of writing the book. I wrote it just in a couple of weeks, but it took me more than 1 month to just go through the editing. So they published the book. And when you are writing like this, you are a channel. It is not your information. It's coming from somewhere, and you are a channel for that information. So sometimes I go back to my book and start reading and enjoying it because it is not me writing that book. And I noticed that all the valuable things that is created in the world has been produced in that state, which is called the flow state. I give you an example. I go to Paris. I went last Christmas. I went to Paris. I went to the Louvre Museum. And I was standing in front of the Mona Lisa painting. There were a lot of people in there. You just gathered. You cannot go even close to that painting because all the crowd is there. And I was wondering, what is the difference with this painting and the copy of this painting? And I realized something. The difference is the vibration that the person who is creating something valuable, they put their vibration into that thing. It can be a statue, it can be a painting, it can be a book, it can be poetry, whatever that's creating is coming from somewhere else that is beyond time and space. That's why those kind of things become timeless. All the big musicians like Mozart and Beethoven or something like that, they created their things in that state that was beyond time and space. That's why we have those kind of things now. We listen to those now. Otherwise, if it's just a copy, it doesn't have that kind of value. So the creativity is coming from being connected to that source of wisdom, which is within us. And then we become a channel for that kind of things that is coming out. So we are all growing all the time, expressing our authentic self. And sometimes we are going down on the road of growth, but it is like a wave that goes up and down. It doesn't matter which side you are, we are all expanding.
What's the best way for people to be able to follow your work and to communicate with you?
So I have my website called joyfulfix.com. And in that website, there is a contact page, and people can go to that contact page. There is a free quiz. And I call that quiz life quality assessment because it gives you a number between 0 and 100. It gives you a number based on 4 aspects of life: health, wealth, relationship, and happiness. Those are not the cause, those are the effects of our life. So everything we have on the inside reflects to those different aspects. And those are like the 4 tires of a car. If a tire is flat, we cannot move far. We have to fix that tire. So we have to know which aspect of our life needs more attention. So we go through that quiz, take that 20 questions and gives us the score. And then we know where we are standing in life. The good, the strong part of our life is, let's say, relationship, and the not very strong life part of our life, the reflection, is, let's say, health or wealth or something. And then we know how can we be more effective in life with expressing that part of us which is stronger than the other ones. I can help a lot of people with relationship if my relationship is strong. And then how can we put our attention on the things that are flat tire that is holding us back? We put our attention on that too. And so it is a good indicator. People take that quiz, they have a score at hand, and they can contact me, and then we make a plan for them to go through the path to just correct the things that needs to be corrected, or if they have to remove a bunch of trapped emotions or limiting beliefs in order to move through the path of success with joy and ease. Because some people think that the path of success is hustle and grind, but that's not it. So I explained it in my book as well, that you can go through the path of success with joy and ease. There is a way to bring the subconscious mind along with your heart desires and with your inspired actions. So it's a package. And then you're aligned with success. We go through the path of success with a lot of fun instead of just pulling your hair out and going through stress and anxiety to just build something. And then you build an empire and you don't feel happy. And you build an empire, it impacted your relationship because you steal the time from your loved ones to put into your business. You build an empire and then you get sick because you just had a lot of stress and anxiety, and it takes a toll on your body. So it is not the best place to be. We don't need to go through the path of success with those kind of pressures. We can go with joy and ease. So they can record their voice on the contact page of my website, and then we can connect, or they can send me an email. We can connect for a free consultation, and then we go from there.
Okay. In the show notes, I have the link to your website and then also to your Facebook and Instagram. So if people want to check that out, they can. Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't, or any thoughts for closing?
Nothing specific, but the only thing that I want to say is that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. If you are in a situation that you feel helpless and hopeless, know that there is always light at the end of that darkness. And the other thing is that when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. So when we change our perspective, everything starts to shift. Sometimes it's just a little bit of adjustment. For example, the definition of success, a lot of people say that success means reaching my goal. And I say that with that definition, you're going to be miserable most of your life because we are not on top of the podium all the time. But if we define success as moving towards a worthy goal, we might be successful most of our life with that definition, as long as we are moving towards something worthy. So sometimes we just change the label from problem to challenge, from mistake to feedback, and then everything starts to shift.
All right. It's a lot to think about. Thank you very much for your time. And as I said, those links are in the show notes, and I'll talk to you on the other side of this musical exit.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. That was a pleasure.
Thank you.